I apologize for my long break. I had some family issues that were going on, as well as someone in my house getting sick. So in my anxious state, I was also really worried about getting sick myself. But we're back. Don't worry, I am back. Not with a lore video, but another 25 things you may have missed video. I admit, it may have been weird for me to do the 25 things you missed on the second game as the first video, but I like Fear and Hunger 2 more than the first game. But now we're going to do it on Fear and Hunger 1. If you didn't watch the first one of these on the second game, which is on the screen right now, this was originally going to be a 10 things you may have missed. But some of these things are so small and so stupid that the video would be like 5 minutes long and you'd all hate me. Also, like the first video, if you even learned one thing here, you have to like the video. If you knew all 25 of these, you can comment, "I'm smarter than you, Pugzer, I hate you." Also, make sure to stick around for the bonus fact at the end of the video. 25 things you may have missed in Fear and Hunger. The chair in the dungeon in the spiral staircase is a reference to Resident Evil 4, where there is a chair like this where you can make a weird pose in and think for some reason. It is like a meme in the Resident Evil community. Here is the clip in that Resident Evil. One of the most iconic bosses in this game is called the Skin Granny. I mentioned this as a random fact in my very first video on Fear and Hunger, but if you ask the new gods about the Skin Granny, they will mention how in old folklore, they say that those who leave their families in search for fame or just better things in general, will have their families replaced with Skin Grannies, which are completely identical to their families, but you just know that they are not your family. There's just something ever so slightly off. They're not real. So when you fight her, you are actually fighting a metaphor, kind of like Kindred in League of Legends. This is an obvious one, but the Penance armor is a complete reference to the Berserk armor in Berserk. A lot of Fear and Hunger 1 content is inspired by Berserk, but the Penance armor is there for criminals who get one last chance in the Kingdom of Rondon, as the armor cannot be taken off at all. As if it were taken off, the wearer would bleed out. However, it does make you numb to a lot of pain as well as gives you extreme protection from everything. A lot like the Berserker armor in Berserk. Although in Berserk you can take the armor off, in a physical sense at least. The Alll-Azif book, which is the Gro-Goroth Necronomicon you can find, is a reference to the book in the H.P. Lovecraft lore known as Kitab Alll-Azif, which is just the Necronomicon in H.P. Lovecraft lore. The lizard man you can fight in the flesh pits is an enemy in Dark Souls 1. Here you can see him in Sen's Fortress in Dark Souls 1. The shield they use is also in Dark Souls 1, like a straight up rip. Here, look. Here's one I learned very recently, but the hunger bar in-game is actually an EXP bar, just reskinned to be a hunger bar, as there isn't a hunger bar asset in the engine the game was made in, which is RPG Maker. So you're actually just losing XP every couple of seconds, which is just your hunger going down in-game. You can also never have 100 hunger, as technically you would then level up and have 125 hunger or something. When asked about the molded in the void, the new gods will say that they are a futile attempt of a new god to create artificial life, which actually might be kind of weird in lore, but every single god of enlightenment has tried to create artificial life. Nashra, with the help of Nostramus, made the husks. Voltaire made stone people, as well as the uterus and the Lord of the Flies. And some former god of enlightenment tried to create the molded. It's possible this was Betel, but we don't know. It seems to be a recurring thing that every god of enlightenment tries to create life, but doesn't quite do it correctly. I talked about the God of the Depths in a lore video I just made, and in it I talked about the Maiden of the Depths in it. And something I didn't know or notice, but you can actually see the Maiden of the Depths in-game. Kind of. The entrance to the thicket has her sticking out of the top of the tree. Take a look. In the Anathomia book, it describes a bunch of status effects. Included is one called Fear Stages 1 through 5. However, there is no status effect in-game called Fear. Yes, there is fear in the game, but there is no combat status effect called Fear. This is more than likely a scrapped mechanic that was just never taken out of the book. You probably know that marriages are a thing in Fear and Hunger, where if you consensually have sex in a ritual circle in honor of Sylvian, provided it doesn't fail, you can join together in flesh with someone and create a completely new person. But did you know that this moonless guard is a marriage? which implies the dog consented somehow. Another thing that I didn't know was a marriage was the yellow wizard mage, meaning a yellow mage had sex with a lizard man, which kind of based, I guess. Oh, you didn't know that? Well, did you know that the concept of marriages in Fear and Hunger was inspired by the 1999 movie End of Days? There is a skill called Mastery of Insects, which is a very common perk that everyone probably knows about. However, this is a very nitpicky thing, but the name is a misnomer. I believe that it should be called Mastery over God of the Depths type beings that may or may not have 6 legs and may or may not be insects. Because you can use it to talk to spiders, which are not insects, they are arachnids. This was a very stupid fact, I needed one more. If you use the Steel skill on the Iron Shakespeare, you will get a quill and an empty scroll, which first of all, I didn't know that, and that's actually huge to get a free empty scroll. But the joke is his name is the Iron Shakespeare. He gives you writing stuff. Yay. Fun fact though, I don't believe if Shakespeare really existed. I will not be taking questions at this time about that. When you use the necromancy spell on Alll-Merr's corpse, he gets an erection. For some reason. I think the joke may be that he gets a boner, you know, like necromancer bones, but it's just a very strange thing you can do. The Lord of the Flies enemy, you know, the one that looks like Gordon Ramsay, is based on the Christian demonology demon known as Beelzebub, who is also known as the Lord of the Flies, and is also one of the princes of hell. There's also an unused model that makes him look more devil-like, but that is not in the base game, so. To continue with the Lord of the Flies, something I didn't know until researching this video is that if you have the fur armor on, the Lord of the Flies will be non-hostile. I also mentioned this in my very first ever video on Fear and Hunger, but the Harvestman enemy is based on Kurt Cobain's album Montage of Heck. There's also some really creepy concept art from early in development. Not only that, but I believe that it is the only enemy or just thing in general in the entire series that has a 3D sprite, at least as far as I can think of. Speaking of Kurt Cobain, the Uterus enemy is based on Nirvana's third album, In Utero, which actually has my favorite song of all time on it, Heart-Shaped Box. Mahabra is based on a city in the H.P. Lovecraft book At the Mountain of Madness. Not necessarily a Fear and Hunger 1 thing, but in Fear and Hunger 2, there are paint cans labeled Mumbler Purple and Francois Gold. So, was the Mumbler named after the color in universe, or was it vice versa? And the same with Francois. Who knows? Every time you get ruined by a minor ghost, your sprite will change ever so slightly to make you look older. I feel that it's weird that Lagarde is affected by this, but so is the little girl. Shouldn't she just grow older? But who knows, she's like a demigod. So. The Maneba is a pretty strange creature, and there's not a ton of lore on them, other than they are probably aligned with the God of Madness Rare, which is supported by the fact that they can use a skill in Rare skill tree that is not available in Fear and Hunger 1. However, in Fear and Hunger 2, you can get a skill called Mind Reading, which is in Rare skill tree, which if you don't know, you can talk to the Maneba in Fear and Hunger 1 and they will read your mind and talk to you through your head, which supports the theory that they are aligned with Rare. The Scarab's face is based on the character, I'm gonna butcher this, Eiji Nagoshi in the horror game Siren. The Black Witch was originally supposed to be the counterpart to the White Angel, and it was originally called the Black Angel. How would it have been a counterpart? I don't know, but in the files it is still referred to as the Black Angel. Its appearance is also based on a picture in H.R. Geiger's book, I don't know how to say this, R+A Resus. He's right here. For a small technical fact, almost every weapon that is supposed to bleed enemies doesn't bleed enemies. However, if a weapon uses 2 different types of damage, whatever affects the enemy you are fighting more will be the damage type it uses. So, for example, if you're fighting an enemy that is weak to otherworldly damage, and you're using a weapon that does both piercing and otherworldly damage, it will use the otherworldly damage instead of piercing. And for the final fact, despite miasma being described as having otherworldly poisonous gases associated with it, it does not poison anything. On top of that, the appearance is based on the sword in Soul Calibur called the Soul Edge. It also jump scared me in the dream state in my last playthrough, which I didn't know it could do. And basically, we just need to go north, follow the blood. Whoa! strategy. I have never seen that. That scared the And with that, all the bonus thing! This fact is so lore-shattering that it could change how we look at the lore of Fear and Hunger altogether. In Moonless's picture, she has a digit on her paw called a dew claw, which if you don't know is like the thumb of a dog. You can see it here on my stinky dog, Karma. However, no species of wolf has dew claws on their hind legs. So unless Moonless is a hybrid of a dog and a wolf, Moonless is not a wolf, but a dog. And with that, the video is truly over. I really appreciate all of you and love every single one of you. Thank you so much for 7,500 subscribers. That's insane. It actually makes me kind of want to cry. I am so thankful for all of you. Seriously. I'll see you in the next video.